Hi, this is Bert from Bert's SVGs, and in this video I'll be showing you how I put the toy shop scene card together from the Christmas toy shop collection. This card has a back and two sides, and then the scene is built up in between in different layers to form the scene itself. It's rather like a diorama. Okay, so I'm just going to glue the frame of the card together. I've got a tab here which will go on the inside of the card, but it will be covered up in a moment with a layer that goes inside. But what this does is it leaves the back of the card nice and seam free for you to write the message to your recipient. So I've got two pieces of pattern paper that I'll be gluing to the sides. This is the outside sides. And not only is this for decoration, but it'll add a little bit of sturdiness to the sides themselves, because that's where the tabs from the different layers that form the scene, that's where they get glued. I splodged the glue a little bit in the corners here, so I'm just going to spread it out a little bit. Okay, and here I have the piece that will be going on the inside of the card, and it will cover up that seam that you can see just there. And I picked this nice deep green as a contrast to all of the colours that will be going on in front of this, because it will be a nice contrast and it will make all of those colours and those elements pop. Okay, so that's the frame of the card sorted, and it's all folding nicely, and now we can start adding the layers. And I'm going to start with the furthest back layer, and I'll be working towards the front of my card. And this is the inside of the shop, so this is a counter with some toys on top. So I tried to get as much detail into this card without having to add too many small pieces. So each of these pieces here, they have one layer extra to go on top. So I'm hoping I've struck a balance there with adding a good amount of detail to give your recipient a wow with this card, but it won't be too difficult for you to put together. So here's the extra piece that goes on front of the counter. And what I did with my finished card is I added an enamel dot to each of these four rectangle panels there to make them look like drawers. If you don't have enamel dots, if you've got anything that's domed or circular, anything like brads or sequins or car candy, anything like that, add one to each of those rectangles and they look just like drawers. Okay, so here's the piece to go on top of my rocking horse. And then I have one piece to add on top of my teddy bear. And then we'll start adding the layers to inside of the card. We'll add them as we go. So each one we complete, we can pop it straight into the card. And how we're going to put these inside is we're going to add some glue to one tab at a time. So I'm just going to start on my left tab here. And I'm going to make sure that the edge of my tab goes right into the corner, right into the fold of the card. But I'm also going to make sure that the bottom of my layer is flush with the bottom of the card. So if we stick to those two rules, if you like, making sure that the corner of the tab is right in as far as it will go, but also the bottom of the layer is flush with the bottom of the card, then all of the layers should go into place and be nice and evenly spaced without any hassle. And also, because we're only gluing one tab at a time, it should minimize any mess. Because the first time I made this card, I added glue to both tabs at the same time, and you would think it would save you a little bit of time, but it really doesn't. I got in a right old gluey sticky mess. Okay, so I'm working on my next layer now, and this is the shop front. And the edges of this panel are flush with the edges of the top and the bottom of this white panel. So if you make sure that they line up, then the window panes will be in just the right spot. Going to work on my sign now. So we're just going to pop some glue behind this green panel, and then when we put it onto the white piece here, if we make sure that there's an even border all the way around, then the holes will line up perfectly with our lettering. And if anything, I'm just spotting the glue on, just to make sure that it doesn't ooze out in between the letters or anything. Okay, now this sign goes flush with the top of the shop front, so that's nice and easy to place. And again, we'll add some glue to one tab at a time. We'll start with the left one. Now we're going to tuck this in as far into the corner as we can, so it will be flush with the front of the previous layer. But we're also making sure that all of the bottoms line up. Don't be afraid to have a little sneaky peek in there just to make sure that there isn't a gap between the tab and the previous layer. And if you glue that left tab into place in the right spot, then you can fold your right side of the card over, and your right tab will just fall into place. Of course, you want to make sure that the bottom's still flush, but it should be. Now this is the thickest layer of the lot, so I'm just pressing down, giving it some extra. I'm using a bone folder here too. I'm just going to make sure that the glue's really taking hold. And we can move on to our next layer. Now these two front layers, just to make sure they don't bow out, I'm just adding an extra snowdrift behind each of them. It's slightly smaller than the layer itself. It's just to add a little bit of strength to that layer. And it goes behind. Okay, so I can turn it over and then I can add the pieces to the front of my layer. And this is the children. And just for a moment there, I forgot to add the little girl's hair. So we'll pop that into place and then we can put the hat back on. And the easiest way I found to line her up is to line up the bottom of the coat, and she should go pop just into place. And with the boy, I found the easiest way was to line up his elbows. And he has an extra piece for his hat too, and that goes to the base of his head, so then it looks like he's got a little peak on his hat. And then I'll glue this piece onto the front of my layer. And then again we'll start gluing it into the card by adding some glue onto the left tab. Push it right into the corner, making sure the bottom's flush. And then we'll add glue to the right tab. And if the left tab is where it should be, the right tab should fall into place. You still want to make sure that all the bottom edges of the layers are all flush with the bottom edge of the card. And of course, by doing this as we go, we know it's going to fold nice and flat to go on our envelope. Okay, so again on this front layer we've got a strengthening snowbank that goes behind the layer. So we're just going to glue this into place. It's slightly smaller than the layer in front, so it shouldn't show. But we've also got a piece of yellow vellum, and that's going to go behind our lamp here on our lamp post. If you don't have any yellow vellum, I know coloured vellums are difficult to find, but if you've got some acetate or plain vellum, you could run a yellow marker over the back of them, or just use some yellow cardstock. It will look fine. Okay, so I'll flip that over, and I'm now gluing my lamppost onto the front of the layer. So the white piece is sandwiched between the vellum and the black lamppost. And there was a little middle to my bow, so I've glued that into place. Then I've added a spot of glue just below the lamp on the lamppost and added the bow to the front for a bit of a festive touch. And then this layer can now be added to the card. Now, instead of tucking the corner of the tab into the corner there, you want to make sure that the fold is lined up with the front edge of the card. And again, add some glue to the right hand tab and make sure that the fold is lined up with the front edge of the card on that side too. And once the glue's taken hold, then your card's completed. Of course, you have some white area there on the front on that snowbank that you could stamp a message if you would like to add a sentiment. But there is an envelope for this card in your file, and I hope the recipient of this card will really enjoy it.